Hi guys, so as promised, here is video number 1 of the I don't know how many are going to come of the Holly's mental health is a mess, but this is what I've learnt video series that I have like 4 days to make a couple of videos, so I'm getting cracking right now. So I couldn't decide which of my diagnoses to start with, and I was umming and ahhing, and then I just thought, you know what, I'm going to talk about the one that is most prevalent in my life. It affects me the most. It's the one that I have to constantly keep check of and reevaluate myself, and that is borderline personality disorder. Now the thing is, right now borderline seems to be really trendy online, especially on Instagram. It's on everybody's profiles that they have BPD, which, you know, maybe they do, maybe they don't. May I please add that you can't be diagnosed with borderline personality disorder until you are deemed to have a fully formed personality, which isn't until you're 18 years old. So yeah, it seems to be the really trendy thing to have at the moment, but when I was diagnosed with it when I was 19, so that's 6 years ago, I didn't know what it was. I didn't understand. I was like, what is that? And if I'm honest, that's still kind of how I feel 6 years later. I still don't quite understand what it is. I know how it affects me, and I know what it is written down on paper, which is things I'm going to talk about, but I still don't really understand what it is and what is the bigger picture of all of it. It's the diagnosis that I have that has the greatest effect on my life, and yet I don't really get it. The thing is with borderline personality is that I have an unstable personality, which means that I can be anywhere and be anyone, and I can change, and I'm here, there, up, down, happy, sad, manic, depressed, impulsive, angry, suicidal. I can be anywhere on the spectrum of any personality. What I feel and what I think about myself and other people is massively influenced by external things. It's very hard for me to know what is authentic and what isn't. Sometimes I do something and I'm like, wow, like, was that me? Was that not me? And I spend so much of my time kind of reflecting and reevaluating about what I've been doing that day, what I'm doing with my life, decisions I'm making. And I'm like, is this an authentic decision, or is this an episode that I'm having and I'm going to really regret everything that's going on, good or bad? It's because it's not me, and I'm going to find myself in a situation where I'm just like, oh, fuck, like, what have I done? I have found myself in that situation a lot. I have done things and, gone off on a tangent, or been really manic and made snap decisions, or even been having an episode that's lasted quite a while and made decisions while having that episode, not realising I was having an episode. Because how do you know when suddenly how you feel, but your mood and your thought processes, everything changes at the same time? How I think changes, and so I don't necessarily recognise that the way I'm thinking has changed, because everything is changing. And so sometimes I can have an episode and not realise until I've come out of it again, and then I can reflect and be like, wow, okay, that was fucked up, or okay, that was not me, or it was me, but that was a really good version of me. Because that's the thing with borderline, it's not all bad, it's not all the psychotic, manipulative, impulsive, dangerous person. Some of it has a really good effect on me. Some of it makes me really productive, it makes me inspired, it makes me really happy. But sometimes it makes me want to burn the world to the ground and just watch. And I have burnt my world to the ground, and everybody's around me, and just watched. But that was before I understood anything, and that was when I first got diagnosed, because that's normally how you get diagnosed with borderline, because you go mental and you become pretty vile, and then the doctor pops up and tells you that you have a disorder that you've never heard of ever, and it makes no sense. So it's not even a relief. But the thing is with my mental health is that obviously I have other disorders that I've talked about that are common knowledge, like for instance anorexia. I thought I was going to make the anorexia video first, and then I realised, you know what, that's not the thing that affects me most, because I can see when I'm restricting, I know when I lose weight because I weigh myself. I don't necessarily know when I'm having an episode with my borderline, which is why it can be so dangerous, and I constantly have to keep myself in check. But keeping yourself in check when you don't even know who you are sometimes is so difficult. It's so difficult. So that is my life, my borderline, my head, my mental illness, my insanity. But what my experience is isn't everybody's, and so I'm going to give you a quick rundown that I am going to call What is Borderline Personality Anyway? Borderline personality disorder is a psychiatric disorder where people, normally young people, have massive difficulty controlling their emotions. Their emotions are normally really intense and quite volatile, so anger, shame, sadness, depression, but then also mania and just feeling insane. Very black and white, not much grey, and very intense all the time. People who suffer from borderline also often suffer from self-harm and suicide attempts mostly because of the intense swings of emotions become incredibly overwhelming. People with borderline also have a massive fear of abandonment and feel a lot of emptiness and loneliness in their everyday lives. BPD treatment is actually really effective. Over time, it's shown that 80% of everybody diagnosed with BPD can have a significant reduction in their symptoms, and that in the first year of their treatment, they can also make significant gains towards their recovery, more so than almost any other mental disorder. The problem with BPD is it displays such an array of varied symptoms that it's very often misdiagnosed. The problem with it being misdiagnosed is that it means that at best there is a massive delay in the recovery period that people should have, and at worst people have successful suicide attempts, and we lose people who we shouldn't have to lose. But because the disorder is so complex, it's very hard to diagnose it in enough time. Another problem with BPD is sufferers are often quite high functioning. A lot of mental disorders bring down the functionality of people, but BPD sufferers can often be very high functioning, mostly due to the impulsivity of the disorder, which means that they can get things done out of the blue. And so a lot of the time you can disguise the fact that you're really suffering because that your impulsivity and your mania that you fall into keeps you functioning at quite a high level. BPD has a really bad reputation, mostly due to the fact that before diagnosis and in the early stages of recovery, people are very impulsive, angry, rude. It brings out the absolute worst in you. So there's a lot of stigma attached to the diagnosis now. However, if we learn more and we are more aware of what it really means to have borderline personality disorder, we can dispel the stigma and start to help people be able to come forward and start to recover.